The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning or good afternoon to those of you east of the Rockies. My name is Tony Howser, and I'm here today with my colleague Praveen Srivastava from the Esri product management team, and with Gary and Mary. That team has asked us if we can provide you with a business analyst product update today. While Praveen and I both collectively manage business analyst products, we have individual product focuses. Praveen focuses on the business analyst web and mobile apps, and I focus on our extension for ArcGIS Desktop and ArcGIS Pro, Business Analyst Server, and the geo-enrichment service on ArcGIS Online. Lucy Guerra, who could not join us today, manages all of the demographics and other types of content that are included with our products. We are absolutely thrilled to be here today to provide you with an insider's update of the business analyst product stack. With that said, let's quickly look at the agenda. Right, I'm going to quickly review the business analyst stack and then proceed to describing our current releases and our near-term roadmap, which I define as the next release or thereabouts. For our desktop, pro, and briefly for our server offerings. Then I'm going to hand it off to Praveen to cover our web and mobile offerings and our data. Finally, we'll wrap up with some Q&A. Hopefully that sounds good to everyone. Go ahead and move on. As you probably know, business analysts enable organizations.
Hello?
Yes, we can. Thank you. Welcome. Business analysts enables organizations to incorporate location into their decision-making processes by combining data about people, places, and businesses with advanced spatial analytics. I know this is a bit of a review for most of you. I want to make certain that you understand how Esri currently positions our business analyst offerings. I think the most important aspect for all of you is that our products are fairly unique within the Esri ecosystem. The fact that our products are complete solutions consisting of both software and data rather than software alone makes them special. The underlying data in our products is a significant portion of the value of our products. For most organizations, it would be cost prohibitive and labor intensive to assemble an equivalent data set outside of our products in terms of coverage, variety, and business value. And speaking of reporting, what I call next generation reporting through infographics, Business Analyst enables users to generate presentation quality reports and our attention grabbing communication tools with more than 40 report templates now as of our latest release and custom or off-the-shelf data-driven infographics. So to summarize here, we have taken several building blocks of ArcGIS like geocoding, network analysis, demographic maps and data, and geo-enrichment and the geo-enrichment engine in desktop, pro, and server, and turned them into the business analyst family of products. So let's talk about some of our key releases here. Esri Business Analyst, we just had a release on ArcGIS Online last week, and we had our some demographic data updates with more than 50 countries. We updated the underlying geo-enrichment service that powers all business analyst apps as well as other Esri apps. And we had some web and mobile app updates that Praveen will talk to. In January with ArcGIS 10.6, we updated Business Analyst Desktop, and we also updated Business Analyst Server, and I will talk about our Business Analyst for ArcGIS Pro debut. Okay, Business Analyst for ArcGIS Pro. I know that many of you have questions about this, so let me make some key points here. This is a foundational release with an initial subset, what we call the first wave of BA-based tools and capabilities. Much of the work was behind the scenes to support, for example, a new geo-enrichment and PDF reporting engine for ArcGIS Pro, a new data browser, and support for both locally installed and online hosted content and services. That means ArcGIS Online and BA server connectivity options. In general, don't expect a one-to-one port of Business Analyst Desktop. Instead, expect it to leverage ArcGIS Pro's high-performance architecture, modern and intuitive user experience and user interface, and tighter integration with Esri's complete platform to provide our users with access to the next generation versions of BA's most valuable tools and workflows. Some other things that are special is it's in the ArcGIS code base. Now that the BA extension is in the ArcGIS Pro code base, not only will our users will be able to light up all of the BA capabilities with licensing alone, that means no separate setup is needed. It will also benefit from the new features and enhancements that will come with every subsequent ArcGIS Pro release, and that's currently about 3 times a year. And let's go to the next slide here. So this is an important link. It summarizes much of the capabilities with this initial release, as well as provide information about licensing and trialing BA Pro-based capabilities. This public-facing blog link. I encourage you to visit this link, which goes into detail about the release. All right, before I go into the roadmap, let me show you some live demo of the release. I'm gonna stop the slides for a second here. And I have here, I'm connected into a machine right now, and this is Business Analyst for ArcGIS Pro 2.1. And we have a Business Analyst toolbox here. As I said, this is a foundational release. We're adding tools with every release. The licensing is really simple. If you already license Business Analyst Desktop, you already have access to the extension for Business Analyst for ArcGIS Pro. It's basically a 2-for-1, and it's also taking account of the fact that we have less than 10% of the tools that are in the desktop offering and the pro offering today. This is an introductory set of tools that we're completely rewriting for Pro's 64-bit architecture. And there's a few other differences. For example, there's this tool called color-coded layer. This takes the place of the MXD in the pro world. It's essentially an on-demand way to create demographic maps. And what's cool is it's not just supporting your local data set. As you can see here, that I have the 2017 US demographic data from Esri installed on my local machine. And by the way, it's the exact same data set as that's supported in Business Analyst Desktop today. I can also go to my Environments tab or the Global Environments tab with ArcGIS Pro and then toggle to different data sets, whether they're installed locally. They may be a separate data set that are installed locally, or I can use my connection to ArcGIS Online and access the data sets for the world that's hosted online today. So say my organization does business in multiple countries and I want to perform some of my analytics with Business Analyst Pro in another country, then I could simply toggle the data set and in this case access the Canadian data and get all of the analytics possible and the report templates possible, including for example, the variables in this case that are associated with the Canadian data set. Now let's go back to just using my installed US data here on my system and then go to parameters. And this, as I said, think of this as like an on-demand a set of layers for your MXD. Maybe I want to go to my Esri tapestry data and I want to dynamically map the number of households in the tapestry segmentation system's life mode group 1, which generally defines affluent estates, lots of discretionary income, well-traveled, well-educated, typically married couples. I believe it's about 5 tapestry segments into this life mode group. And then I can run this. And behind the scenes, the ArcGIS Pro is creating multiple layers consisting of all this data. So think of it as an on-demand MXD. In this case, it's accessing the data that is locally installed on my system. If I had pointed this to the ArcGIS Online data, then I can access data sets that are not even on my system. And should be coming up any second here. And what's special about this is the vector GIS data. It's not raster data, so you can use it in other workflows, not just with business analyst tools, but any tools within ArcGIS Pro in this case. And then as you can see, and let's go ahead and change the transparency a little bit here. I have this thematic layer and also associated attributes that are still loading here. Okay, there we go. And then I requested this classification variable of the number of life mode groups, and then you can see there. And then we can actually visualize the distribution over the US. But as I drill in, the scale-dependent layers will update. And I actually locally have all of those GIS layers that I can use in all my workflows. So think of it as an on-demand MXD based on the variables that I choose. A really cool feature. And you can even, if you have any scripting capabilities or folks who know how to use Python within your organization, you can use this as part of a Python workflow or a Python model, a GP model as well. Okay, so one more demo before we go back to the slides here. And this time I'm going to show you some enriched layer. Let me go ahead and turn off this that thematic layer there. And then I saved a bookmark before this meeting. This is the desert area east of Los Angeles, consisting of Palm Springs, Palm Desert, La Quinta, lots of golf courses that you can see from this imagery here. And it's a pretty large area. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use a existing GP tool that is not a business analyst tool called Generate Tessellation. And I'm going to create many hex bins consisting over this current extent here. And I'm going to make them half square mile hex bins. And just quickly generate this. This should only take a few moments. And so there's going to be potentially thousands of features here. One of the things that makes Business Analyst for ArcGIS Pro special is the fact that it does have access to a lot of computational resources. And with that, you'll be able to do analytics with lots of data and processing. And especially when you're connected to your local data, in this case, I can take large data sets, and in this case, I'm creating these arbitrary hex bins over this desert region east of Los Angeles. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the enrich layer tool that is part of the business analyst toolbox, and then enrich all of these individual hex bins. In this case, I'm just going to pick one variable. I can pick many. I'm going to choose households, and the 2017 total household counts, and it's going to aggregate using our apportionment methodology that takes into account the non-uniform distribution of populations and households. around the globe that's powered by the geo-enrichment engine, and summarize all of the information for the individual hex bins. And this shouldn't take too long. You can imagine that the hex bins represent this arbitrary type of area, and almost like a grid. And if I zoom out and you squint your eyes, this is almost like a raster. But the enriched layer also works with any type of area, and those areas can be your own proprietary sales territories or regions. Okay, so the enrichment process is done with these features. Yes, go ahead.
I just want to make sure we pause and see if there's any questions or if anybody from the group. I want to make sure we're interactive here.
So any questions so far about what I'm doing? I'm essentially enriching these arbitrary areas. Maybe think of them as your sales territories or sales regions, but I'm also, one of my goals here is to demonstrate what it means to do this apportionment methodology, this population weighted querying of our data that's supported under the hood in all business analyst products. I also want to show you the performance characteristics of business analysts within ArcGIS Pro. So maybe let's make this 50% transparent or something like that. Okay, while I'm zooming in, are there any questions so far? Okay, so obviously this is a desert area, and you can see that, let's go ahead and add some labels here. Okay, you can see this is color-coded or thematically mapped, and business analysts and our underlying apportionment methodology, which takes into account many factors, takes into account the non-uniform distribution of populations and applies that to all of our data, whether it's spending data, consumer behavior data, market potential data, etc., even your own data that you use alongside business analysts. And you can see here at Palm Springs Airport and other commercial areas, such as adjacent to the airport, we do not count the households. We do this globally, and we take this weighting and apply it to all of the data and analytics in BA-based reporting, in infographics, in charts, and in all the in most of the workflows that are supported across the BA family of products. So this is incredibly powerful and helps you within your organizations produce better estimates and which lead to better decisions about your own business data. So any questions before I leave here? Okay. All right, let's go back to some slides real quick. Okay, so I'm going to show you some roadmap very quickly. Some of this stuff is basically an enhanced version of what we may be supporting, a completely rewritten version of what we currently support on the desktop side. It's also a next generation type of capability based on what's currently offered in BA. So I won't be showing you anything really proprietary here. I'm not worried about that. As I said, the near-term roadmap is what we basically generally define as on or around the next release. The next release, this case is 2.2, which is the user conference summer timeframe. So feature and performance enhancements to the color-coded layer tools, which I just showed you. We intend to create some new ribbon tools. And then as you can see in this nice little screenshot here, I'm using existing statistical capabilities within ArcGIS Pro to select all of, in this case, the block groups that are greater than one standard deviation in terms of whatever thematic variable I'm choosing here. It's actually the total households. So that represents the top 15.8%, if I'm remembering my statistics correctly, of all household counts within what's shown on the map In this case, it looks like New York City and Manhattan. Okay, some other stuff that's coming. What we call the phase 2 of our core business analyst geoprocessing tools. Standard geography areas, so like those on-demand thematic maps that we support through color-coded layers, this time you can dynamically generate the administrative boundary areas. In this case, you see some zip codes. They could be postal codes anywhere in the world. Just connect to ArcGIS Online if you need some boundaries for some obscure level of geography in another country, or some other granular geography within the US. You can work with your local data, or you can work with your online connection. And then desire lines, they're also known as spider diagrams, origin destination diagrams, and the associated tabular data formation. We're very excited about this because a lot of folks have use for determining the distances between maybe customers or stores, hospitals and patients, schools and students, etc. And then actually have this work with tens of thousands of individual features, and then to generate that attribute table, which you can export or use in additional workflows. And of course, as with all tools in a business analyst for ArcGIS Pro, they're completely scriptable. And then just a quick peek here. And when I say product roadmaps are subject to change, this is already an outdated screen capture. A high performance, highly scalable site suitability analysis, where you can use multiple criteria to interactively rank and score multiple sites based on multiple place-based criteria. And so that could be site-specific criteria like number of parking spaces or gross leasable area. And it can be demographic variables from Esri associated with each of the sites and the area surrounding them and the underlying populations, proximity to features, and also your own data associated with the sites. So an interactive and dynamic and highly visual means to find that suitable site, or at least rank several, so you can make better decisions. But the management tools for ArcGIS Pro, a lot of people are looking forward to this. We have a very rich suite of tools in Business Analyst Desktop today, and we are not only bringing those tools to the Business Analyst Pro world, we're also adding net new features and capabilities. And as I said, the screenshots are concepts, are non-production. They're already changed in many cases. As you can see, we support creating territories based on actual point locations or using administrative geographies, and it's very dynamic and interactive. And so that will allow you to balance based on your variables, such as customer counts, number of regions, number of stores or outlets or distribution centers, and also underlying demographics, such as the market potential, sales potential, discretionary income, number of households, etc. All right, so I'm going to pass it on to my colleague Praveen, who's going to talk about the Business Analyst web and mobile apps. So while we're going through this transition, are there any questions? All right, thank you.
Hey, Tony, this is Jordan. I don't have any questions, but I did post a link to your blog in the questions window.
Okay, thank you very much, Jordan.
Great. Thank you, Tony. Thanks, Jordan, as well. Just wondering if you can see my screen.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So I'm going to provide a quick update on the Business Analyst web and mobile apps, as well as some content updates that we had in the Q1 releases of 2018, and also an announcement related to how to use the infographics capability across the ArcGIS platform and in your custom applications. So I have just a couple of slides, and most of my presentation is demos. But just to summarize, on the Business Analyst web app side, we have a lot of things to show, and many of you might be familiar with the key capabilities of the web app, which is basically a browser-based application, really easy to use, and allows you to access demographic content, your own content, run reports, infographics, and do suitability analysis, and so on. So a couple of things I want to highlight here, though, is one of the newer capabilities in the application is ability to use your own data and use them in the enrichment, as Tony was showing for those hex bins. And in that case, the variable Tony used was the households. However, that's possible using your own data as well. So for example, if you have sales data for each quarter, you could enrich each of those hex bins using your sales data. And I'll show you a demo of that very quickly. And the other one of the newer capabilities that you might be familiar with is the custom infographics, which is kind of our next generation of reporting. It's much more visual, interactive, and helps you summarize data in a kind of in a presentation mode that you can share with others. And what I will show is creating an infographics that summarizes your own data along with Esri demographics data in just a minute. The second thing I will be demoing is the Business Analyst mobile application, and a couple of newer capabilities in the mobile app that I would like to highlight is the ability to capture site pictures and site attribute and take notes while you are visiting any location. So for example, Business Analyst mobile app has always had the capability of going to a site and creating a trade area around the site and looking at key demographic facts and standing facts and so on. In addition to that, now you can also capture information about that site. So take some pictures, collect some attributes such as how many parking spaces are there. And once you are done, it all can seamlessly sync with the web application and also with the Business Analyst Pro extension, where you could use it in other workflows like suitability analysis and infographics and so on. So with that, I will switch to showing a demonstration here. But while I'm switching to that, do you have any questions related to Business Analyst web and mobile apps? All right, so let's what I'm showing here is this is in ArcGIS Online, and this is a layer of my own sales data. So this is some fictional sales data I have created for the Michigan area. And if I click on any of these polygons, you could see I have some sales numbers for 4 different brands that as a retailer I might be selling at my store. And these are just some raw counts of how many of each brands we are selling at the store, right? And I can click on any of these polygons, and these are showing those sales numbers. So this is one of my own data in a feature layer format living in ArcGIS Online that shows the sales counts for different geographies. In this case, I'm using census tracts as geographies, but you could have your own territories or any custom shapes like hex bins that will have your own data in it. All right, so what I want to do next is I want to bring this data into Business Analyst web application and use that exactly the same way I would use any Esri demographic variable in the web app. So I'll switch to Business Analyst web app here. And we have a number of workflows that help you bring in your own data. For example, importing a spreadsheet or shapefile, or bringing in your web maps and layer from ArcGIS Online. And this one of the newer workflows is custom data setup. So what this workflow, and this is the one we would be using here to bring in the sales data. What this workflow allows you to do is it helps you point to any feature layer like the one we were seeing. You have in your ArcGIS Online or in your on-premises portal, and choose the variables from that layer and make them available inside the data browser we have. So for example, here I can simply go and search for that sales layer. And here is that layer we were looking at in ArcGIS Online. I can go ahead and add this. I'm not going to go through the whole setup because of time. We have here, so I've already done that setup here. So I have brought in that sales layer with all those 4 brand A, B, C, and D sales numbers. And I'll just show you how I could use it in a number of workflows here in Business Analyst. So for example, if I go to the color-coded maps workflow that allows me to create color-coded maps using any variables in just a few clicks, I can see the same data browser that Tony was using in the Business Analyst for ArcGIS Pro extension. Along with the Esri demographic variables and categories that we have here, there is a category called My Data. And when I bring in variables using the custom data setup workflow, it allows me to have those inside that My Data category. So here are those 4 brand A, B, C, and D sales variables that I brought in. I can simply click on, in this case, the brand D variable, and it creates a nice color-coded map for me here in the Michigan area. So you could see using the experience of using this variable is exactly same as how I would use any other Esri variable. For example, if I just want to look at these areas where the sales is not that high, I can simply choose that category and the map updates it to show those areas. So that's using this data in the mapping workflow. Next one, what I want to do is, let's say in this Detroit and Ann Arbor and Michigan area, we have a potential store location, maybe a potential new store location we are considering. So in this case, I've already mapped that location at 217 North Maple Road. And in the background, we are seeing the sales data layer in the color-coded map format. And what I want to do here is, for this particular location, I want to summarize or apportion this sales data along with Esri demographic variables. So there are a couple of ways to do that. I'm going to show you the end result first and then show you how I did that. So one way to present that information and summarize all this in one format is using infographics. So for example, I created this custom infographic template, and in this I chose these variables to display along with the sales for those 4 brands in this chart format, and summarize that for this 10 minutes drive time around that address. So you can quickly see that the median age in this area is 32.5. This infographics are, as you could see, very visual and interactive. So I can click on the age variable and also see a nice distribution of age, different age groups here in an age pyramid format. And you can easily see the largest group here is the male and female age 20 to 24, because it's in the Ann Arbor area, a college town. That's good. And that's a pretty standard way of using Esri demographic variables. What's great here is about using your own data that's apportioned for or aggregated for this 10 minutes drive time. So I can see that the count of sale for brand A for that 10 minutes drive time is 197. For B, it's 266, and so on for brand C and D. So that's one way of using your own data in the reporting engine. Similarly, I can also run a report that uses Esri variables and my own data. So in this case, I have created a template called Market Summary Report, which does that. So if I run that report for this area, it's aggregating the variables I put in that template and my sales variables here. So if I open that report, you could see it summarizes the population in this 10 minutes drive time for this address, and also the different sales by brand variables as well. So let's see how I created those, right? So if you go to any of the reporting workflows in the Business Analyst web application, we have ways of creating custom reports. We have ways of creating custom infographic templates. And you can also, there's a new workflow that I'm not going to demo today, but we added in our newer releases, is the ways of creating custom comparison report templates as well. So let's see first how I created that infographic template. So if you go to the build infographics workflow, there are a number of Esri standard templates that are included with the product. You could simply just use those if they meet your needs. So for example, I was using the executive summary callout template here, but what I wanted to do here is I wanted to add my own variables, so I went ahead and did some customization in this. Customizing these are really simple. These are made up of various panels, as you could see, and I can choose to edit or replace any of these panels with the content and variables of my choice. So in this case, I'm just going to remove this title. I'm going to click on this chart and click edit. And what I want to do here is just go ahead and select those sales variable that I brought in using the custom data setup workflow, drag and drop them over here in the chart, and simply say replace the current set of variables with these variables. I mean, in this case, I don't see a need of using these icons, so I'm just going to uncheck them. And one last thing I want to do here is give this chart name related to what it is representing, change the font size and the color and make it bold so you could see. So you could see this is super easy to create these custom infographic panels, and the experience of building these is pretty easy in terms of you see a preview right when you're building these things. So I'm seeing this chart is probably going to look like pretty much like this when I run this for any area. So that's it. I've created my template. If I needed to change any colors or use my own logo, I have a lot of those customization options, and I can simply go ahead and save this template. I'm not going to do that here, but if I save this template, what happens, it is saved in ArcGIS online as an item, and we will talk. So for example, here's the template that I already created and saved. The benefit of saving this in the portal is that then it could be accessed from anywhere across the ArcGIS platform. So in this case, we are using it inside BA, but in the future, you will be able to use it in other parts of the platform as well. Similarly, I created the report template that I was running. So for example, I went to the build reports workflow, chose one of the Esri demographic templates here, for example, demographic and income profile. And I then added my sales variable exactly the same way I did it for infographics by selecting those variables and dragging and dropping them over here in the report section. And save this as a template, and you can run it for any area you want. So that's kind of a summary of how you use your own data and use them in various workflows in the business analyst. So next, what I want to show here is how I can use the business analyst mobile application in conjunction with the business analyst web app, and also collect some information about sites in the feed. So I'm going to clear this map so it's easy to understand. So in this view here, the other screen I'm presenting here, this is my iPad running business analyst mobile app. And you could see it's showing the same site that we were looking at in the web application. And what I want to do next here, I want to go, let's say I'm visiting this area, and I have information about a other potential site that I want to consider for this retail store. So I can simply go to that site and add that location on the map and define what trade area I want. So in this case, I'm simply going to take a 1 mile radius around this location I have just added. And once I have created the trade area, I can quickly look at what kind of demographics are within that trade area. So this is just a way of quickly screening if this location actually meets any of your criteria or not. So in this case, there are about 4,000 people within 1 mile. The median age is 40.1. As we are moving away from the downtown in Ann Arbor, I think it's getting more suburban. And also, I can look at the spending facts here, how much people are spending per month and per year on various categories here. So that's great. That has been in the mobile app for a long time. One of the newer things here is, while I'm at the site, I can also collect some information about this location. So for example, if I want to take some picture of the building there, how does the parking lot look, or what's the front of the building looking like, and the condition of the building and so on, I can simply take photos. And since I'm not in Ann Arbor, I'm just going to take a picture of the Esri Redlands campus here and upload that. I could take one or more pictures of the site. In this case, I'm just taking one. and I can also enter some of the attributes that I learn about that location when I'm visiting. So for example, the building area could be 50,000, the site area 100,000, the frontage maybe 1,000 feet. I can also add number of parking spaces here. And not only that, I can also add some general notes here. So for example, if this is a high traffic area, I can take that note and enter that as well. So when I do that, it immediately saves all this information in the system. And if I go back to the web application now and refresh this project, the common project that I'm using between web and mobile application, you will see that site showing up here on the map, as well as all the pictures and attributes I just collected will be available here in the web application. So here is that 2500 Bishop Circle East site. I can click on show details for this, and this will show me the picture I took as well as the attributes that I collected. And I could use this information in infographics or in suitability analysis to do the analysis whether this is a good site or not for my business. So that's it for the demo. Any questions so far? Okay, so a couple of other updates I wanted to provide very quickly. One is we had a pretty significant release last week in our online environment, both for Business Analyst web app and ArcGIS Online. And with that, we updated about 50 countries outside the US, and you could see this map that highlights some of the main areas that were updated. These were basically updating the vintage for these for the data in these countries to a latest data available from Michael Bauer research. And this was this is available. These updated data sets are available in Business Analyst web app as well as in ArcGIS Online and in many other ArcGIS products across the platform. One last thing I want to highlight here is, and this is more like an announcement actually with the timing of this webinar. We think this is a really huge step for the infographic templates of them being available across the ArcGIS platform. So as part of the ArcGIS API for JavaScript release that should be happening this month, the infographic capability that I showed you in the Business Analyst web app will be available using the API. So the use case or how you would use that is, let's say you're creating your own custom application and you want to use one of the templates you author in the BA web app. In that custom application, you could call that template, and as I mentioned before, those templates are saved in ArcGIS Online, and that makes it easy for you to call using the API in any other custom application you're writing and run this in your application. Yep, so that's all I have. I think with that, I would like to hand it over to Gary Sankri for opening this up for Q&A.
Yep, thank you very much. Thanks a lot for that, guys. Really good stuff coming. Any other last minute questions? All right, so a couple of housekeeping things. First of all, sincere apologies. We were having serious technical difficulties on my end. So this GoToWebinar is a new platform. So I was trying to log in. I couldn't hear or see, so we didn't really get to kick it off quite as elegantly as we would usually do so. But we do have a couple things from the SIG standpoint to think about. We have as everybody should be getting excited about our user conference coming up. That's probably the next time we meet, I believe. But we do, at the user conference is when we get to meet face to face. And at that particular event, we have 2 openings on our SIG leadership that we will want to fill at that meeting. So if you're interested in being the SIG chair, so Brent did a phenomenal job last time. He's now going to step down and let somebody else give it a try. And we also need someone to help with the secretarial role and some of the coordinating and taking notes and that sort of thing. So if anybody's interested in those roles, Please reach out to me. We'd love to have some folks sign up. And if there's anybody else who wants to be involved, there's always things that we can do. And this is really supposed to, we really want this to be a user-led group. That being said, I don't think I'm looking over at my partner over here, Mary, and she says I think that covers it. So thank you everybody for spending some time with us today. Hopefully you found this valuable. This session will be recorded, and we will mail a link out to everybody. That's the good thing about using GoToWebinar. So the link will come back. So if you missed anything or you want to review it again or share it, please feel free to do so.
It'll probably be on LinkedIn within the next week and a half. I will post in there as well.
Okay, so it'll be out on LinkedIn. So look for it there. And with that, I would say thank you all. And unless anybody has anything else, going once. All right, everybody.
Bye.
Have a good Wednesday.